First item, Rec Commission building.
I'll turn it over to these guys with the Rec Commission. Just a little background. Recreation commissions in Kansas, state statute does not allow rec commissions to purchase real estate. They changed the law recently to say that they can acquire title to real estate through gift or donation. But that's been in the last few years that they changed that law. So they're looking at getting into a building for exercise facility, office space. I think it would be a positive situation for the Rec Commission. However, they can't just go out and buy it. So it would require cooperation from the city or the school district. We are a joint Rec Commission, city and school district, to purchase that. They can enter into a lease agreement with an individual, so the owner of the property, they could enter a lease agreement. That would be subject to approval of this board. That's in state law, and a maximum of 10 years. But I'll just turn it over to Trey and Danton, and they can start the discussion of what they're wanting to do.
Okay, I'll start it here, and then you just chime in. So, as a board, we've kicked around a lot of ideas, and we just feel at this point where we're at with the funds that we have, it would be best for us to purchase it. Well, not really purchase because we can't, but try to get a building that's affordable, but still allows us to have some space to do some things that we want to do. So we'd have a workout facility in there. We'd have room for class activities, crafts, different things, and then of course Dan would have his office in there. And so it would give us room for that, and it would also give us room down the road if we felt like we wanted to add on to that building. We have the space to do it. We got the parking, we have kind of not the storefront, but you know, it's a nice location there. It's a good spot in town. So I think that, and it's affordable. I mean, compared to what we tossed around the ideas of building or building. I mean, and that's just not going to work. But we need your guys' help if we can get there. Or we feel it would best protect taxpayers if we could do something like this, because if we do it with an individual, a lot of things can change in 5 years. A lot of things can change in a 10-year lease, and it's hard to put the stipulations in there to protect. And we just don't want to do this, spend the money, and then not actually own something potentially down the road if we can ever do that. So we feel a little more protected doing this with the school than we would with an individual.
So you've discussed leasing the building from the individual. Perhaps at the end of the lease term,
Right.
that individual would donate the property.
Right.
And that's, we're talking that.
Yeah. So
if we have that agreement between two public entities,
I feel it feels safer. Yeah. I mean, I don't. Our attorney doesn't want us to put that in writing because it's basically then kind of more of a lease to own-ish, and we're not supposed to technically do that. So I think we wouldn't necessarily want that in there, but if we do it with the school, we wouldn't necessarily have to, and we'd feel more protected. If we do it with an individual, I would feel we would need to somehow have something in there to protect ourselves, and he just doesn't feel we can have that in there. So that's why we've come to Josh and tried to figure out a way around this. I mean, we still, at the end of the time, at the end of the lease term, we would like to have the building donated to the rec, to where the rec can own it and control what goes on there. And then the lease term could be talked about it, and whatever that amount of years would be. Can't be more than 10, a max of 10.
So one thing, our thought was that the district could purchase the building from the individual, set up a lease agreement with the Rec Commission. It would be similar to the lease agreement we have with the city for the football field. We insure everything. If we want to update something, we pay for it. The light pole falls over, we need to put in new lights, we did it. So the city does nothing with our football field area, we just lease it from them. That would be a similar arrangement with the Rec Commission, where we own it, and they would insure it. They want to improve it, they would do that. So everything would be on them to maintain it and all the upkeep and everything. my concern was if we did that, we don't have the upfront cash to be able to just say, okay, we'll purchase it and then charge them a monthly fee. So my question to our attorney is, well, if we did a 10-year lease with them, can't they just pay that up front? And if we were gonna lease it to them, we would need to add on to that purchase price over time because we would be losing interest. And so there would be a benefit to them cost-wise to go ahead and pay that lease fee up front and then lease it for 10 years. You know, the purchase price we're looking at is $65,000. They've been discussing that with the owner, and I don't know if there would be any other discussions about that. If we start talking about wanting to negotiate something, we should probably go into closed session. I do have a motion there. I'm not sure it's necessary in this case, but you know, $65,000 over 10 years is about $540 a month. What is the rec currently paying for the
$500.
city building? It's about $500 a month for the
Yeah.
office in the Witts Center.
Yeah.
So economically, it makes sense from that standpoint too. So.
And this kind of keeps our same relationship we have with the school, where we get to use the school gymnasium when it's available and the lodge gymnasium when it's available. And we'd like to still pursue using the different parts of the lodge that help us offer more stuff. So it doesn't really change those relationships, I guess, so.
So I'm not 100% sure it's workable. I've discussed it with our attorney. He said, yes, we can purchase. Yes, we could lease the building. Yes, we could gift it to the rec commission at a time that we decide is needed. I think our attorney was kind of on the same page. We don't want to, you can't put that in an agreement that we're going to give the property to the rec commission, because then it's, like I said, it's a lease to own, and they can't really do that. So, so it couldn't really be a legal agreement that you pay this money and then you end up owning the building, because that's a purchase. But having the rec commission and this board under that understanding that, hey, this is what we're going to look at doing, and then whatever boards are in place at that time would have to make that decision.
Right.
Our attorney wasn't sure on whether we could take that lease fee and pay it up front, because that essentially looks like a purchase. So he was checking on that, so I can't guarantee that that can be done. He was uneasy about that at first, but was going to do some more research, so I'm still waiting on that question to be answered of whether that's feasible or not.
Is the gas company still in there, or are they going to be out?
They are currently still in there, but they will be out
Okay.
once we get this figured out, yes.
Do you have any sort of deadline or time frame decision has to be done?
No.
Okay.
I mean, we'd like to do it sooner rather than later, but
Right.
no, there's not a specific date that it has to happen.
So we're okay if we need to wait on that, so.
I was hoping he would get back to me today, but he didn't.
What happens if we can't do that, then do we know what we would?
No, I don't know.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I guess my question to them would be, how much can we pay up front?
Yeah, okay,
You know,
sure.
Can there be a,
Yeah.
to me, it makes sense that if
Right.
we're gonna have a $65,000 10-year payment, we're gonna need to add some interest cost to that.
Right.
Well, it benefits us to get the cash up front, and it benefits you that we don't have to add any interest cost over
Yeah,
time.
that's right.
So it makes sense for everybody involved in protecting the taxpayers' monies, I think.
Yeah, and also, if we were to do it through Tom, we would have property tax for however many years we leased it, and we don't have, is that correct, that we would not have? You guys
It
are.
would come off the property tax rolls.
Yeah, it's exempt from there. So that's a savings over a course of 10 years. I mean, it adds up. It's $2,600 a year, so,
You've already moved in there, right?
yes.
I would need to check on that since we would be leasing it, but
Okay, sure.
leasing it to another tax-paying entity, so
Yeah, sure.
I don't know that for sure, but I'm assuming it would come off the tax rolls and there would be no property tax paid, but.
Are you paying rent now?
We haven't yet, but we will be.
Okay.
We're working out some sort of an arrangement that will be fair to us, and then, in the meantime, yeah. we're basically utilizing it like we utilize anything else for now, just so we can be in there and use the space. But it's not official, really. I mean, it's just, we're utilizing the space. And he's.
We're utilizing it for spin right now.
For spin, yeah, for
Basically,
spin
is all.
class. Yeah, we're not.
There's actually not even an office.
Yeah, there's not an office yet set up in there, but
I'm working from home.
he's mobile.
Okay.
And I can tell you at the end of the 10 years, if it's, you know, at the end of the 10 years, if we do this, the district owns the building and is leasing it to the rec commission, to move to transfer ownership adds cost. You know, because there will be some title fees and all that, not a lot, but it may make sense after that 10 years that just keep it the way it is.
Sure.
And don't pay any more.
Right.
Kind of like we do with the city. We could transfer ownership, but it's just going to be a little bit of cost that doesn't benefit anybody.
Yeah. And if it was the school that owned it, you know, we could probably wrap our minds around that. With an individual, you can't do that for an infinite amount of time, because it just doesn't work very as well. But with us, yeah, it could work that way.
And we had discussed that the rec commission would cover any legal fees that we have, and purchase, yeah, there would be some title fees again with closing costs and those things that they would have to come up with. So the district, we will be out, you know, a little bit of time. But in the end, I think would be a positive thing.
Very much so.
For the rec commission, for sure.
Yes.
Who pays the interest on it? I mean, the insurance on it?
The rec commission.
Okay.
There may be a little bit of an increase in premium just because we're adding square footage as far as our liability, but
Very
I
small,
don't even know.
if any.
Yeah.
I could get that number, but it'd be next to nothing, and if we needed to cover that too, I mean, we could. It would be a very small amount if there's any.
We might have to check with our agent.
Yeah, you should.
I don't really trust him.
But with them having the liability insurance on it and the property insurance, you know, it's, there's no need.
All in favor of doing whatever we can do legally, so. Amount.
The consensus, everybody's comfortable doing that, and we can work something out with our attorney. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll see what we can get done, and there would be a, I assume we would need to have a lease agreement signed, and then the purchase of the building would be contingent upon that lease being approved.
Yeah, I think that'd be fine.
And as far as gifting the property at some time, I don't know that there's a way to put that in writing without violating that,
Yeah.
that law.
Yeah.
Probably need to have it someplace though, that agreement someplace, because we're assuming that somebody that's sitting here in this room right now is gonna still be on the school board and the rec board. Okay, yeah, we'll just designate Raymond to do that.
Yeah.
Or you can stay here, you can commit to being here at least that long.
Yeah. I would ask the attorney if we could just do like a memorandum of understanding that it's our intent that if we've recovered all of our costs and the lease terms have been fulfilled for 10 years, that we consider donating the property, or I don't know what, I'd have to ask the attorney what needs to be done there, but.
I'd like to see that transaction happen as soon as possible,
Okay.
even if it's under 10 years. Whatever it
Oh, I
was.
mean to transfer it over?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know whether the 10-year lease or a 5-year lease, or does it matter? I don't know.
That's an
I know
important
the
question.
attorney was just concerned that it's not just a arrangement to, where the rec is actually buying this. That, I think that was his concern.
Yeah, our attorney likes 5 years or 10 years more than 1 month, 2 months, so we propose that.
The perception is the perception of it, I think,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
which is pretty obvious if you do like it.
and like I mentioned before, the $65,000 over 10 years,
Yeah.
that's a little more than what you're paying now for the office in the Witts Center.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not much more at all. well, we'll work on that. Any other questions?
Thanks. Thanks a
Okay,
lot.
we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, appreciate it.